The perfect retro gaming handheld. It seems like a myth, but is it? The world of retro gaming handhelds now is absolutely huge, with so many devices coming out all the time. It's so difficult to choose, but what makes it even more difficult is that no device is perfect. No device ticks all those boxes, even though it seems like that should be a really easy thing to do. Quite often the things that we complain that are missing from one device, we can see in another device that is selling right now on the market. And most of the time, those things aren't even to do with the processing power or the technical abilities of that device. If we look at it's the perfect example. In their range of devices alone, we can see so many differences from device to device. From OLED screens to staggered trigger buttons to dual boot systems, all their devices all seem to have different shining features. So why can't they just mash all of those features into one and give us the best, most amazing retro gaming handheld? And I'm sure we'd even be happier to pay a little bit more for that device than paying less for a device that doesn't tick all the boxes. With such a range and variety of consoles that are nearly exactly what we want, it leaves me thinking, will we ever see the perfect retro gaming handheld system? Honestly, I think the answer to that question is that although it's possible, no, we won't. And the reason behind it is because the manufacturers don't want to make it. They don't want to give us what we want. They don't want to give us the perfect retro gaming handheld device. Now, why on earth would that be? Why would a developer, why would somebody who's trying to sell you something not want to make the best, most perfect version of it to make you most likely to buy it, to make you most likely to spend money on that device as opposed to all the other options that are available right now? Now, to truly understand that, you just need to look at other devices in other marketplaces. For example, the mobile phone market. The iPhone and Apple are a perfect example of a company who could give you everything you wanted, give you the perfect device, but just won't do it. And why won't they do it? Because if they did, you wouldn't buy their next device. They wouldn't be able to sell you anything else. Now, okay, you could say there's always going to be better processors. There's always going to be the potential to add more RAM further down the line as technology evolves. That is true. But when these companies are wanting to sell you a new device every year, every 6 months, and even in some cases like Chronik, releasing a device every few months, waiting for technology advances to be the reason why you would buy a new device is too long for them to wait. Not only that, but it would be too expensive for them to do. For them to constantly try to put the latest hardware into their devices, it means the price of the console is going to have to match the price of that hardware. And the bleeding edge of technology is always incredibly expensive, meaning that these companies would either have to release an incredibly expensive device, or they would have to reduce the cost of the device to a point where they might end up losing money themselves. So instead, the easier option is to just miss out a feature or two. So then you're left wanting that feature, so when the next device comes along, you will see that feature and be really excited for it, but you'll be waiting for another feature from the next device, or you might even have a feature taken away that existed in a previous device that you got comfortable with and kind of forgot about until it was taken away. It seems ridiculous, but we can literally see it happening. And in all honesty, and unfortunately, it's the normal way of marketing technology. Historically, products used to be designed with a fault in place. So after so many years, the product would fail and you'd have to buy a new one. But that was deemed morally incorrect and companies had to stop that practice. So what did they introduce instead? They introduced the temptation from the next device. The reason for you to want to buy the next device was because it gave you something you didn't have. Whether it's a range of colors that you can only get in the new device, and if you have the old device, you have the old colors, and your mates would see that and know you've got the old one. Or it's features that make it a more playable system, features that make it more pocketable or more comfortable to use, or features that means that the gameplay experience is more true to the retro nostalgic gaming that you remember. Now currently, the Retroid Pocket 3 for me is as close to perfect in a budget-friendly device I've ever seen. It has pretty much everything I've asked for in it. It has a brilliantly pocketable design, it has an amazing screen, and it even has those staggered shoulder buttons that I need so much. But still, it's not perfect. It's not perfect for me because I want better emulation. I want PlayStation 2 and GameCube at a pocket-friendly price. And it's not perfect for many of you out there as well, because a lot of you don't like the form factor of that screen. You don't feel it's perfect for that nostalgic experience, which is another reason why we will never have the perfect retro gaming handheld system, at least not in one device. If we class the Retroid Pocket 3 as close to perfection as we could get in a budget retro gaming handheld system, and let's just say the GameCube and the PlayStation emulation was perfect, with absolutely no games that were unplayable on the system, we would still be in a scenario where we would need at least 4 different devices to satisfy everybody, because we'd need 2 different devices that have different aspect ratios. And on top of that, we then need 2 iterations of those devices, one which had the D-pad above the analog stick and one which had the D-pad below the analog stick, which would leave us with 4 separate devices, each one which would be perfect for different individuals. Which is why even if a developer tried to give us everything, we would never have one perfect retro gaming handheld system. If you want to check out the review of the Retro Pocket 3, which is what I class as close to perfect, then check it out right here.